Okay, so I had a request today to do a build, and I started working on it, and then I decided to do more with it, and then I decided to do more with it, and on we went. Right now, you should be able to see my screen here. The request that I was given was to essentially create a lead form that could analyze an individual's data against a database and put it together, compile it in a meaningful way to provide a customized report to that individual. So in this instance, I took something very complex and decided to see what I could accomplish. What I did with this one is I took the adverse childhood experiences studies that were done in the 90s, I believe, and I compiled it against the work of Dr. Martin Teicher, who I really enjoy, and looked for ways that I could take all the neurological implications from different childhood experiences and how they would impact potential brain alterations and ultimately behavioral traits, emotional instability, things of that nature. So let's get into it. I'll show you where we start. So you take your database of knowledge, which in this case is right here. This is the database that I utilized. And this is, as you can see, quite comprehensive. Everything from gender to specific age, peak points, and how it impacted various areas of the brain. I decided not to be, how do I put this? I decided to be conservative and ensure that I followed these things very carefully. Now, what I did with this is I downloaded the file initially, and then I took it over to ChatGPT. And this is where it's like, well, you may not have the paid version, but you're going to need it. Code interpreter. This is recently released. It's in beta, but you can do some really amazing things with it. Let me show you. Drag and drop. Boom. Please extrapolate the meaning of this form, of this sorry. So what it's going to do now is it's going to go through that entire data file, and it's going to begin to compile everything and try to make meaning of it. See? So it'll go through this and do this. And it took me quite a while to work through this aspect of it. But once you have the data uploaded, you can manipulate it and you can create a questionnaire from it even. And I utilize this to help me alter my initial questionnaire that I originally had because I wasn't being flexible. You see, we're all used to these training scars of the past where you have to do things in very logical order for the computer to be able to interpret it. However, with the advancement made in artificial intelligence, with GPT, especially the Model 4, you can make very robust and complex data sets and do a strategic analysis, which is what I did. So to show you this and illustrate it carefully, I'm going to bring this over here for you to take a look at. This was the interface. The interface, by the way, is a separate feature with Zapier that you can get your hands on. And the color scheme on this is off. I apologize for that. But if you go down through it, this is the questionnaire. And here, there are 10 questions taken from the original ACE study. These questions are emotional abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional neglect, physical neglect, domestic violence, household substance abuse, household mental illness, parental separation or divorce, incarcerated household member, and then gender, male or female. Now, in this instance in particular, you get to answer the question, yes or no, and then you answer at what ages it occurred, because there are specific growth parts of the brain that take place during different ages. And these formations tend to be what we call sensitive periods at these specific age points, and they are also gender dependent. So we'll go through that. You answer all these questions. We could do this for a fake person if we wanted to. And you know what? Let's do it. Let's have some fun with this. I spent several hours building this guy, so we're going to make the most of it. Let's go here, create a new form. Let's go to just standard default. And let's do this. Consider, actually, let's take it from here, where we were just working. Perfect. Consider Edward Elric from Full Metal Alchemist. What different adverse childhood did he have, and at what ages? Parental loss. So this could be considered also incarceration. Like they don't have parental loss explicitly listed in the ACE study, which is obviously a very difficult thing. Failed human transmutation, sacrifice of limb, child soldier, father abandonment. So let's take a look at this really quick and let's extrapolate for a moment. This would be considered a severe trauma. It's not listed in the ACE study, but I would consider it to count as a one. Failed human. Actually, let's do this. Apply these to the ACE study, and extrapolate ages. Ages. Parental death. Around age 10, failed human transmutation, sacrifice limb. Physical abuse or physical injury. There you go. Wow, but he wasn't really abused. He kind of did that to himself. But then you can also consider it neglect because there was no one taking care of him. Child soldier, age 12 became this, effectively making him a child soldier, exposing him to potentially violent, traumatic situations. Exposure to violence. So that would be, yep, that does count as domestic violence. Father abandonment. So he's got a score of 4. Okay. So let's take this into consideration now and let's go to our questionnaire. Boom. Okay. We will use, oh, I'm actually in the wrong one. Share. Open a browser. Okay, I'm just going to walk you guys through this and how this works. Let's go ahead and do it for, we'll do it for this person. And then we should do it for the inverse. Edward. Let's see here. Emotional abuse. No. Yes. 10. 10. I would say age 10 through probably, I think the series ends around 15, but he experienced a lot of stuff that would have been considered that. Sexual abuse, no. Emotional neglect, yes. This is a failure. Affection, emotional support, that was definitely occurring by his father from a very young age. When did he leave? Around 6 or 7, I think. Let's assume he left around age 7. So age 7. And so, I would imagine that would be considered living with somebody with a mental illness. So let's do 0 to 7. 0 to 7. He had emotional neglect, physical neglect. I would say age. They tried to transmute their mom at 10. Age 10, because they were orphans traveling around, if I remember correctly. Let's see. No, they died. When did she die? How old were they? I think they died at age 10 and she was traveling around. They were traveling around until they tried to transmute her. I'm assuming. I'm making a lot of stuff, okay? Yes. Age 10, 12. Because they were in, well, there was a point there. We'll figure that out. We don't know how long they were neglected for. They were definitely abused by their teacher, being left on an island and almost starving. Domestic violence, witnessing any form of violent behavior. Yes. 10 to 15. No. Yes. 0 to 7. I'm just making this up, guys. Parental separation. Yes. We'll say 6. 6. Age 6. And age 10. I think she passed away. Incarcerated. No. Male. Okay. So when I submit this, this is where it's going to get cool. So it's going to take all that data. Let's see what it says here. Thank you. Thank you for willing to share experiences. Da, da, da. We don't have to do this, but it takes you to a new page where you can actually input this data because that's an old setup I did. This one's better. So now what happens is it takes that information from the submission form that you build out in Zapier, and I can walk you through some of the details there really quickly. So I don't want to be wasting your time. Oh, it already moved it forward. So we'll go here. Here we go. So right here, by the way, let me pause this really quick. So each one of these, you click on this in one form, for instance. This is a field here. You have the email option. You have a lot of options though, okay? Like if we go and we hit the drop down here, these are all the different ones you can do. Checkbox, current, number, blah, 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 all those things. There's also actually a drop down that isn't currently available because of the way we've calibrated this form. But it's definitely one that you can work with. Now, full name. These are all long text options. Short text would have been sufficient, but you never know what people are going to input. And then from here, you have your data if you want to, which is right here. It's the ACE study adaptations, which is where the data will be pulled from. Then here's my different actions. And I haven't named these. I should. This is the one that we're currently using on a new study of adaptations form submissions created, which takes you to here. Now here, just to illustrate for you, then the interface submissions created, it brings it down and it pulls all the data in from that submission. Then this is where it gets complicated. Takes all the answers, takes the full name, takes assistant name, and then these are the assistant instructions, which is extraordinarily comprehensive. Okay. And then it will pump out an end result, which will be put to a new Google Doc. And then also it will compose an email. This is part of an overall compilation because right here it's going to recommend the utilization of the neural optimal device for training purposes. And then if the person responds back to a specific email in that chain, it will actually trigger another interactive bot that will start a questionnaire process with them. That could be a back and forth discussion depending on how they want to operate. But for now, we don't need anything of that nature. Don't overcomplicate, keep it simple. So what happened? What kind of email did we get and where could we find it? Let me go ahead and see if I can pull it up for you. So if you look here, this created a table report from the diverse range of traumas as physical abuse, emotional abuse, neglect, to witnessing domestic violence. A comprehensive history of distressful experiences has been recorded. These experiences have affected significant areas of the brain. Now, granted, I could easily dumb this down to make it so an average individual can understand it, because really, who's going to understand corpus callosum, hippocampal subfields? Like, it just goes on and on. But then what you can relate to is the impact. Diminishing of integration between the right and left hemisphere of brain affects your ability to communicate, understand language, recognize faces, read, write, and even perform any daily activities requiring coordination. Good to know. Changes in memory processing suggest you might have difficulty remembering incidents, people, dates, or anything else typically would remember easily. Increased risk of psychiatric disorders. The alteration of emotional processing implies you could be struggling with recognizing and expressing emotions in a healthy way. So how brain training can help. The neural optimal brain training can work towards improving left and right hemisphere integration, memory processing, emotional processing, and resilience to potential psychiatric disorders. This brain training essentially functions as a workout for your brain, strengthening its skills and performance, just like how physical exercises improves bodily fitness. It is an FDA-approved, safe and effective brain training program, commonly used by high achievers and the ambitious. However, its effectiveness is not exclusive to them. It can benefit anyone regardless of their objectives. Recommendations. By totaling up your traumatizing experiences, it's noted that you will greatly benefit from the highest period of 30 sessions. Okay. So what we find is that children, when they do the neural optimal, that they can have 10 sessions and be very successful. What I've found in adults, depending on the level of trauma that they've experienced, I would recommend between 20 and 30 sessions. If you have a complex post-traumatic stress type disorder, I would recommend 30 sessions. I would also note that this is not actually a therapy. It is a brain training system that the best way to explain this is, imagine you're a musician playing an instrument. Your brain is that instrument itself being played. And now you're able to see yourself playing in the mirror. And what this does is it helps the symphony of the brain work more efficiently and work together to produce more harmonious notes. And in that way, it improves your overall function as an individual. Call to action, I would exclude that. I can make it so it gets rid of that. Invest in yourself and harness the power of neural optimal, da da da. Alley to schedule, boom, boom. It doesn't have markdown, so it didn't do that correctly. All right, there you go.